Okay, why don't we get started? Again, my name is Krista Green, and I'm here representing the Peale and Grit Fund, and I'm joined by another member of Peale staff, as well as members of one of the past recipients of the Grit Fund, Girl Power, who are going to be presenting what their project was, how they navigated doing the application, and then fulfilled the requirements of the application, which is really just the execution of their project. Robin, why don't you get us started?
Great, thank you, Krista. Hi, everyone. My name is Robin Marquis. I'm the Accessibility Manager and Organizational Manager at the Peale, as well as the co-coordinator of the Grit Fund with Krista. I'm going to share a little bit of access information while we get started. First, I'll give a visual description of myself for anyone who can't see me. I'm a light-skinned white person. I have a kind of bead embroidered shirt right now, sitting in front of a bookshelf. And other folks are going to give their descriptions. I use they, them pronouns. But before we do that, I want to make sure you all know we have our ASL interpreter, Coffee here. Thank you so much for being here. And if you'd like captions, you can turn those on at the bottom of your screen. There should be a little bit of a CC button that says closed captions. You can click that. And if you'd like to adjust the size, you can do that in your settings of Zoom. You can also, if it's distracting, you can turn that off. Yeah, back to you, Krista.
So again, I'm Krista Green, and I am a brown-skinned Black woman who's sitting in front of a loom in my upstairs, and my walls are like a pale pink color, and I wear glasses. All right, passing it to Amy.
Hi, everybody. My name's Amy. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm part of Girl Power. And I'm a white woman with short, blonde, brown hair, and I'm wearing a black sweater with some yellow pattern. There's a painting behind me, and I'm drinking some green tea, and excited to be here today. And passing it to Pan.
Hello, everyone. My name is Pangelica. I am a brown-skinned woman, and I have a purple scrunchie with a bun tied, and also a blue jacket. And my pronouns are she, her.
Thank you guys so much. So to start, we're going to give you a little bit of an overview of what the Grit Fund is and how to apply. Then Amy and Pan are going to share about their project, and then we'll have lots of time for questions at the end. Feel free, as questions come up, to put them in the chat. We'll answer them as they come, or if it makes sense to answer them a little bit later, that's how it'll run. So I'm going to share my screen. Give me one moment. Okay, can folks see the Grit Fund website okay? Yep, great. So this is our website. We'll put it in the chat. It's gritfund.org. This is kind of the open page. If you want to go to this about, that gives you more information overall about the Grit Fund. One thing I want to point out, which is helpful for folks here, and people have asked in our previous session, is some of the eligibility requirements, kind of what we fund. Lots of folks have questions about, well, does this apply? Is this okay? Is this project okay? We try and be really broad and don't want to have a lot of limitations, but there are some, so it's good to look here, and always you can ask us questions more specifically if you think your project will work for the Grit Fund. And then one thing to keep in mind is this values section. So this is an area where we're going to, the jurors, when they're reading the applications, they're going to be looking at these areas to make sure that your project has collaboration, it's keeping in mind accessibility, there's some feasibility to it, you're taking risks, and there's cultural integrity. So those are described more here. And if anyone wants to go more into details about these, we can loop back to this. But this is a great place to just get more details on if your project makes sense for Grit Fund funding. Now, after that, in order to apply, it's a little bit different than it has been with other organizations. So if you've applied in the past, there's a few different things the first thing you're going to need to do is make a profile with our website. So only the lead applicant needs to do this. Only one person of your team needs to do this. I think when I click on it, we'll see if my, okay, my information is not saved in here. So it's going to ask you to create a profile. And this way you can log in and work on your application, submit it that way. So this is this profile button up here, just some general demographic information, contact information. So once you've created a profile, you'll go to the apply button. I'm also going to pause here. I know I can talk a little bit quickly and see if there's any questions in the chat at this point, which I can't see. So I'm assuming there aren't. Krista, interrupt me if anything pops in. So right now I go to the apply button and it's saying you need to log in or create a profile to apply. So I would log in. Let me see if I can do that quickly. Actually, I might just log into my other. Oh, you know what I can do? Okay, this is what I'm going to do. Before you log in or apply, you can also just get more general information about what the application entails, and that's under this Grit Fund project grants page. So this is chock full of information, and up here in this kind of navigation bar, there it shares the different sections. So there's both the timeline, information about what we're doing today. These guidelines, again, more details, toolkits and forms that you'll need to review, other frequently asked questions, further resources, and then this kind of submit application, which pops you back to this apply button. So some of the important dates, we are all right now in the open application time, closing March 1st at midnight Eastern time. So that's when all applications will be due. Afterwards, we're going to be deliberating and looking with our jurors till the 4th. April 5th, 2022 is when it'll be announced. And then there's a full year for the project to exist. I'm going to skip this info session because we're here, but if you want to come back to watch any of this, this is where we keep the recordings. Here's more information, like I said, about guidelines and this how to apply section again. This is the piece I want to pause for a moment on. The components of the application are listed here. So you'll, once you, like we said, make a profile, go to the apply page and fill that out. And then there's these 4 components of your application: project timeline, budget, supporting media, and the media inventory. So all this is laid out here and in quite a bit of detail. There's an application toolkit if you'd like to download that. If you have any trouble with our website, you can contact us directly. We love to chat with people if it's technical trouble or just kind of thinking through your project. You can also download a plain text, just a Word document that has the application in there. I always like when I do applications to type stuff out on my computer, save it, send an email back and forth, so you can use this document for that. Yeah, I'm gonna pause just so we have more time for Amy and Pan to talk, and then we can pull this back up with questions later on. Oh, I see there maybe are some chats coming in.
There's a couple of questions. One that just came in was about having your collaborators before you submit your proposal. Yes, you can submit your proposal with your intention for collaboration. I think that you need to have fleshed out as much as possible for your project how that collaboration will take place. But yes, you can submit your project proposal without named collaborators.
I see this other question, is a book acceptable?
I responded for
oh,
that
you did.
one.
Okay, great.
Sorry.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
looking to see. I think there was another one that came in before I got to it.
Can you save the draft and then work on it? Absolutely.
Right,
So in the website, when you've made your profile and click the apply button, yep, you can save it and come back to it. Yep, absolutely.
Okay.
So we have Mandy asking, I've worked with a number of performer participants as well as a science consultant. Is this considered a collaboration? Yeah, so the idea of the collaboration is this is about working with other people on your project. You know, this is not about one artist putting their work forward. So collaboration looks like a lot of things. Like we're trying not to be really, really detailed and specific because that often offers constraints. So the idea is that we really want folks to be working in collaboration with other people and that to be a core part of the project. So yeah, I hope that answers that.
Can I further elaborate?
Of course, yeah.
One of the research / science consultant is a Baltimore person, but the project originated overseas, and so the participants were all foreign participants, and so that part of what would come up in the budget is, since these participants also were in groups, I'd like to give them an honorarium, but I don't know if that's allowed. I mean, there's all these kind of. So I just thought I would put that in there because they were so integral to the project and they wanted to be part of it. And then I thought, I would love if I get one of these grants to supplement their activities by, giving them some kind of little bit of piece of money so they can buy new uniforms or something like that.
As long as the project for Grit Fund funding is going to be realized in Baltimore City, Baltimore County.
Yes.
That should not be a problem.
Okay. Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, that is, it would definitely be realized here and then eventually overseas as well in the locale in which it was originally, filmed.
Okay. Why don't we do our review of Girl Powers, project, and then we'll come back to questions afterwards.
And Amy and Pan, I believe you're able to share screen if you want to do that, but if you're having any trouble, just let me know and I'll mess around with that.
Yes, I can share my screen. Here we go. Can everybody see that? Give me 1 second, because I kind of can't see. All right, that's a little bit better. Maybe if I minimize. Yeah, now I can see better. Okay. Amy, do you want to start off?
Sure. Hello again. So we're Girl Power, and for those of you who haven't been to one of our events, we've curated everything from fashion shows to drag shows. And so our little pitch is that we're elevating the voices of women, trans, queer, and non-binary artists in Baltimore. Oh, you're muted, Pan.
I'm sorry, everyone. A little bit about our story is that we're a Baltimore-based event curation duo, consisting of myself and Amy. And our events serve the LGBTQIA plus community and specifically prioritize giving women, trans, non-binary, and queer artists a platform of expression. We were founded in 2014, and our events quickly became a staple of Baltimore's creative landscape. 2 years ago, in 2019, we got a $7,000 Grit Fund grant to produce 4 seasonal events through the year 2020. And I have a little video here just to get if it will play, because technology is crazy. Let's see. Come on, baby. Oh, she didn't want to play. Hold on. Sometimes it does that when you are using a PDF. Anyway, we have another video later on that I can show as well. But I don't want to keep that take some time away from the presentation, so I'll just move on.
So here's some tips that we put together for your Grit Fund application. Knowing your team, your strengths, and how you complement each other. For example, I am good at putting ideas on the page, and Pan is good at editing and embellishing those ideas. I'm good with the numbers, so I kind of took leadership with the budget part. And Pan is good with fantasy because fantasy and money go hand in hand, honey.
I came up
um,
with that one.
and also, just to give Pan her flowers again, she put together this beautiful, she organized the application. So another strength of her is making things look really nice, which comes in handy also. Have concrete ideas of where your money is going, get quotes for costs. I think this is really great to have like a clear, concise budget. No wishy-washy, even if, I think that everybody understands that costs can change. You just need to like make a decision for your budget part of it. And yeah, and be true to yourself. I think that's the most
Yeah.
important.
Yeah, and I want to speak on that because I feel like a lot of grants, you know, a lot of grants kind of put these parameters in which I feel like sometimes it puts artists in a place where they feel like they have to play up or come up with a project just so they can get money. And when we say be true to yourself, think about your journey and what makes sense next for you and apply for money for that. And I think that will take you a lot further. And I feel like the jury, or I forgot how I think it is a jury, but they will see like, oh yes, this makes sense in where this artist is or where this collective is. Like this is the next step, and this is our second time. We got the Grit Fund. This is our second time applying for it. And the first project, our first application, Amy and I went back and we were like, what? Child, what were we thinking? Like, I'm glad we didn't get this money because we were not ready for it. We were just like, we were just like trying to play up what we thought they wanted from us instead of being true to ourselves and thinking what makes sense for me.
Well said.
Highs and lows. And Amy, help me out with this part. We got a lot here. So highs are pivoting to successful virtual variations of our events. Before COVID-19, mostly everything we did was in-person events. So we've done programming from fashion shows, drag shows, panel discussions. We've done all kinds of things, but we got this huge smack in the face with COVID. Like all of a sudden, like our way of life was snatched away. And right when we had just got this grant too. So I think it's something that a lot of us had to learn too, is like how to proceed in this new world. And like, it did take us a second, but we were able to flip it and use this time to our advantage. Amy, do you want to talk more on that?
Sure. I mean, I guess it also goes with like tips for your project. I think I don't know if this is already in the application for the Grit Fund, so forgive me if it is, but I think like having a plan B if you are planning something like that is relying on being in person, just how you're going to navigate if, we are going to shut down again, or like there are like parameters on how many people can attend, things like that. Just having a backup plan and like showing that you're prepared for anything that comes your way. I think that's really strong in an application.
Yeah, and especially for us, as we're events based, and Baltimore has a really fragile ecosystem of venues already. You got to have a plan A, B, C, D, E, F, G. But we learned that especially even more. And I feel like if you did work this into your proposal, that, okay, if I have my public facing event isn't able to happen, how can I make this accessible virtually? And also don't look at it as like a detriment, but it could also be like a good thing. Like recently, we just hosted a financial wellness workshop and we did it virtually, and we got people from all over the country to come in and with us. So it's like, virtual also puts Baltimore on a bigger platform. So it's not all bad, but just like be ready to think in that way. Okay, so the next bullet is launching new programming. Oh yeah, taking risks. Yeah, Amy, do you want to talk about the new things that we came up with?
Yeah, so my soul was a little crushed because for our proposal, we came up with like kind of like seasonal events, and we were all going to kind of like exchange different like roles in the event. So we would all kind of like lead a project throughout the year. And mine was going to be a dinner. And of course, that was impossible with COVID. So again, turning like something that was sad into something positive. We launched a outdoor series called Butch Gardens, and it was a daytime party outdoors, and we were able to do that throughout the summer, and it kind of snowballed into like um, a really amazing thing that seemed like people really needed, in terms of like safely gathering, or as safe as we possibly could. So that was really awesome. Again, like taking this thing that feels heavy and turning it into something positive.
Yeah, and I feel like, our whole grant period, I feel like we didn't fully get the experience because we got the grant in 2019 and then the world shut down in 2020. So like we didn't really get the full chance to like go in how we wanted to go in. But at the same time, because we didn't get that chance, it still was beneficial. Like we stretched our money out. We stretched it out because we had to just like think on our feet. And like I feel like Grit Fund is very flexible in that way. And yeah, another thing that I wanted to say is we came out with a DJ mix series too. So that was like a virtual thing that we could do. And then to segue into the next bullet point, we learned about being able to pay artists and collaborators fair and sustainable rates, which also has shaped the ethical lens in which we conduct business. So just think about how are you gonna allocate your funds, and like would it make more sense for you to do something really big and not be able to pay everybody like what they deserve, or like scale it back a little bit and everybody walk away with fair wages? And that's definitely a really hard a really hard like line to walk. And later on in the presentation, we're going to show you an actual budget from one of our shows. So perhaps that'll help you just like try to visualize like how you're going to start thinking about money. The lows, a team member quit mid-project. So girl power has always been me and Amy, but we've kind of had like a revolving door at times where we would add another person in. We added the person in and it just wasn't working, and they quit. They quit right before we found out that we got the Grit Fund. I can't quite remember, but that was kind of like, oh no, what are we gonna do? We were like, we have been doing girl power so long that we're like, we know we're just gonna keep it moving. But that was a low. We had in our proposal that we were going to hire somebody to build out a website for us. That didn't work. We spent a lot of money on it, but we spent a lot of money on it, but it ended up tanking. COVID-19 was definitely a low. And then coming to terms with letting go of original ideas that weren't feasible, And I think it was hard for every artist this past year to be let go of like old our old freedom in which we were able to share our work and learn new ways. Let's go to the next one.
Learnings and words of advice. I think we talked a lot about this, but accepting and learning from failures, moving forward, documentation of work, really important, not just for Grit Fund, but any grant, and just for yourselves as an artist or collaborator, whatever you are. Documentation is great to have. Programming that can foster financial sustainability. We learned a lot about that and kind of building on top of this grant to keep us moving, and research for other sources of funding and go for them.
Yeah, I wanna add to this, especially if you're a collective that you already got things in the works. If you don't get Grit Fund, you still have built out a proposal that you just have. You
Mhm.
send it out to other people. We just did Girl Power. Our last sweat that we did, we weren't sure if one of our funders was gonna go through. So one night I just whipped up a proposal at like 1:00 in the morning, because it's just like, oh my God, I have this show with this big budget and I don't know if I'm getting this money. And I just sent out this proposal to the most ridiculous people, but also people that make sense. And actually, some people responded and gave us money or said, I can't give you money, but I can support you in this way. I can give you like an in-kind donation or do this or do that. So definitely, once you have this proposal, even if you do get the Grit Fund money, still apply for more money. Like, I feel like it's out there. You might as well. Now you got a whole proposal.
Excellent. Moving on, learn to talk about yourself, understand what you're doing more deeply, and envision the future. I love this. This is great. Again, if you don't get the grant, you still wrote out things, which sometimes we have a bunch of ideas floating in our head, and it feels really good to write it down, and you're like, oh, that's what I'm doing. So either way, it's going to be beneficial to you to write this grant. Framing the operational structure of our organization, our roles, and how often we meet. We really learned how to be a functional collective. We started creating contracts for every collaboration so expectations are clear. Super important. I encourage all of you to do that if you're not already doing it. Budget and track money flow. This is, you can take a peek of our budget if you'd like to see it.
Yeah, I think can you see the Safari window that just popped up?
No.
All right, I'm gonna stop sharing and then share again. But also what Amy was saying, asking me a question about this. Share screen. Okay, here it is. Also, I just want to throw out there for everybody, when you are paying folks, if you pay them over $600, you got to send them a W-2 and a 1099.
Yes.
Over 600, you got to send them the tax forms. All right, Amy, do you guys see this Excel sheet? Yes? No?
Yep.
Amy, do you want to go through? Okay.
Just brief, but this is how we, this is actually this is our real, we kind of took our budget proposal and then typed in the real numbers of what it actually came out to rather. And then our notes are who paid for what. And again, this is something we're still working on, and we actually are in the process of forming an LLC for us to be better about money, because another thing that is good to know is that somebody will have to be responsible for reporting this money on your taxes. So think about that too. So we're trying to become a LLC so that as an entity we can start, having our own bank account, own taxes for that, so it doesn't fall on Pan or myself. So that's important, I think, to note. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. But you could see how
And then
expensive sometimes.
we
how
got
expensive
her.
it can get.
A lot of the stuff is like we come out of like our own pockets, and then we get the funding, which comes in later. This is the funding that we got for the show in blue. And then we make our little note like, this is how much we need to pay ourselves back. But yeah, and I think getting the grit fund made us definitely put us on like a regiment, like a procedure of like, okay, time to do a new project. Let's start up our budget. Let's keep track of finances.
Mhm.
Let's keep our receipts. We have like a whole receipt folder. So there's also like the business end. You're getting a good chunk of money. So you got to track where everything is going and like just be really on top of it, because it's going to be easier for you if you just do it as it comes. You know, right away, if I book a hotel for DJ Polly, then I'm gonna just get it in the budget right away, you know. So I'm gonna stop share, and then I'm gonna try to switch back to the. Sorry, this isn't very much organic. Is there? Should I just share my whole? Is there a way I could share my whole screen? I guess not. All right, and then the last bullet point, maybe.
COVID has forced us to take a step back and build stronger foundation for our business. So again, like what we talked about through this whole presentation, of course.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody is probably in a different stage of where they are with their practice. And when we got the Grit Fund, had been together for a long time, but at the same time, I feel like Grit Fund matured us and got us thinking. Mm-hmm. And it was like I said earlier, it was like a step, like it was like a next step up to progress our business, and it like got us thinking in a way that is like more sustainable, you know.
Definitely.
Oh, and programming. So we in December 2019, we did Sweat, which is our annual drag show with Nina Bonina Brown from RuPaul's Drag Race. And then we did a virtual Sweat, which I'm gonna have to I do want y'all to see a little bit of the magic. Are we good on time or?
Yeah,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah, definitely good on time. And if folks want to start putting questions in the chat as they come up, this is perfect. Yeah.
Just so you guys can like get an idea of like what we do, because I couldn't show the. Hold on. For some reason, my screen is frozen. Uh-oh. What happened? I feel like it's crashed.
You can try to pull it up if you want. Here we go. Oh, huh. Well, oh, okay. It looks like we might have momentarily lost Pan. Sorry, give us 1 sec. I can try to pull up the video while we're waiting.
Yeah, thanks, Amy. Sherry asked the question, is it possible to see some sample narratives? We did, our last Grit Fund info session was with Sweaty Eyeballs, and they shared, I believe they shared their entire Grit Fund application. I know they shared the budget with us, but I'll double check that and see if we can send that out as an email to everyone at the end of this, and we can check with Amy and Pan if they're comfortable with sharing some of their application later as well. I don't want to put you all on the spot right now, but we'll follow up over email.
Yeah, we can definitely share our narrative. Sorry, we're having a little bit of a technological issue.
No, you're fine. We can keep
Apologies.
answering questions as they come in.
Great.
One from Mandy says, what percentage is artist fee generally of total budget? Can equipment for purchase related to project be listed, list itemized contractors, or list in one lump sum? Great question. I'm going to pull up our sample budget so you can look at it, and that might help visualize some of the answers to that question.
We don't have a rule for your percentage of artist fee for total budget. So I'll say this, we need to make sure that we're paying people fairly. And so you're not going to get some kind of demerit for underpaying or rather, you're not going to get any kind of demerits for that. I know also that people will propose projects that are that Grit Fund is supporting. So you may already have dollars in hand, and this is additional dollars, right? And so for Grit Fund's portion, it may be more of the funding from Grit ends up going to the artist just because the full budget is supported by more than one grant. You understand what I'm saying there? And so I can't really say you can only do, 30% or 20%. I can't give you that because everybody's scenario is going to be different. But what I will say is you absolutely should be paying your artists. You should definitely be paying your collaborators. If you're working with a community organization, they could be getting a stipend as consultants, or another name for them as collaborators. So, thinking about those things thoughtfully and then making sure that you are going about taking care of them in a really intentional fashion is never going to be a bad thing.
And I've pulled up the budget template, which is on our website, and this is what we ask everyone to use. It makes it a lot easier to use it. So it shows what's broken out. Try not to make it so detailed that it gets in the weeds and isn't relevant for people. I know a lot of folks will have this as kind of their overall budget, and then internally we'll have a more detailed one, whatever makes sense for you all. But I hope this answers that. And Amy is ready. We're going to come back to your question, Emmett, in a second, but want to have Amy and Pan share their video.
Sure. Let me see. All right, let's hope that this works. I'm just gonna skip through. This is that's me. Gonna skip through a little bit, but basically we used funding from Grit Fund to do a virtual version of our drag show. And it was a pretty big deal because it's the first time that we've ever done anything like this, but I'm gonna try to skip through. Oh, here's performer Top Shelf talking about their experience with girl power and what they miss about being able to just have community.
True to my heart and passionate about. So I'm going to do a political piece tonight. Well, I mean, I really do miss intimacy, but like communal intimacy too, like the way that you can like go to a dance party and grind up on strangers or something like that. That was close to my heart.
And then I wanted to skip through the show. I think it's at like 2. This is Jesus Vice. And then I wanted to show a few more people. I love Butch Cassidy.
Thoroughbred, that's what she said in the back of my truck bed as I was getting buzzed on suds out on some backcountry road. We were flying high, fine as wine, having ourselves a big and rich time, and I was going just about as far as she'd let me go. But her evaluation of my cowboy reputation had me begging for salvation all night long. So I took her out gigging frogs, introduced her to my old bird dog, and sang her every Willie Nelson song I could think of, and we made love. Then I saddled my horse, and I'm riding through the same thing. I make a woman noise, 'cause the girls ain't so pretty. Riding up and down Broadway on my own stunt Leroy, and the girls say the horse like a cowboy. Everybody says, say the horse like a cowboy.
And on that note, I think that's the perfect note to leave you with. My girl power. I think we had one more bullet, but another thing that came out of, we talked about Butch Gardens, and then another thing that came out of the Grit Fund is us ramping up our marketing and thinking of ways that we can communicate more intimately with our audience beyond social media. So we actually have a email newsletter. And whenever we have things coming out, we reach out to our audience. And it's one of my favorite things that we do because it definitely, it gives I feel like it's an intimate connection, and I don't know, we get a lot of opens, and people are very responsive to it, and it's also kind of like you're in the girl power club. You get the inside scoop, and we always announce things in our newsletter before we announce it on social media, so it's kind of like you get a closer, you're closer to what's going on in our world. But yeah, anything else you'd like to add, Amy?
I just wanted to add something, if it's okay to, there was a question about asking if we support ourselves with the funding, or do we sell tickets? And I kind of touched on it, but I thought it'd be easier to talk about it. And our model is, we do both, and we always pay ourselves a little bit. You know, it's not always probably as much as we should be making, but we always give ourselves something. And our ticket or our events range from free to ticketed. And what we do is by charging at the door, we're able to charge less at the door, basically. Like we say we put on like basically like $100 show for $20. So a lot of times, you know, we're making the ticket sales are not like a full profit back to us. It's just helps with the cost so we can keep it affordable for the community. And also another thing we do is we'll comp tickets. We just started doing this, which is something we've always wanted to do. And for the first time, we were able to comp some tickets towards trans folks in our community. That's, you know, we're trying to support. And so, yeah, we're always learning, always trying new things, always changing up our model.
Yeah, and I also wanted to add that it wasn't easy for us to pay ourselves in the beginning. Like, I don't know why. We just like didn't really want to pay ourselves. And like I sat Amy down one day and I was like, listen, we're doing this. This is the way we're gonna grow. We gotta pay ourselves. And then ever since then, we just blossom. But I feel like artists, I don't know, we have a thing about paying ourselves and actually speaking up for ourselves and like saying how much we're worth, and like we always shortcut ourselves, and like it's hard, but like you gotta push yourself out of it. And I feel like Grit Fund definitely helped us to grow and like see the value in not only ourselves but our collaborators as well.
Totally.
Yeah, I'm so glad you all brought that up because it's true. It's really hard, and that's part of what Grit Fund is really wanting to do is making sure that you're paying yourselves and your collaborators. We had one question that I want to bring back. Emmett asked, is there an ideal amount of public events or showings to organize with Grit money within the year? I'm part of an outdoor cabaret collective that is seasonal, can't do cabaret in the cold. Yeah, so there's not an amount that you have to put on. Your budget should just reflect what you're doing. So if you say, I'm going to do one event and ask for $10,000, that's possible. Sometimes there are huge events that really do need that $10,000 reflects that, but you really just want to make sure you're being thoughtful with that. So you can request anything from, you know, $500. I wouldn't probably suggest people put the work in to request under that, but up to 10,000. Really, whatever makes sense for your budget. So if you decide, you know, I don't want to do a whole $10,000 project, but I really want to do this project, that's $1,000. We're going to put on one event. It's going to be great in the summer. Yeah, just have your budget reflect that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Other questions from folks?
Yeah, is there a distinction between asking for money for, say, just developing the project, because that's kind of where I'm at, and then asking for money, say, even if you don't have a venue finalized, for, say, what the following costs would be in terms of publicity and you know, maybe rental or, you know, other things that would accrue based on, you know, the exhibition, the nature of the exhibition.
There isn't a distinction, you know. I think when you look at the budget, it really does articulate things like, you know, the fee that you might have to pay for permitting or something like that, you know, so it's not only the kinds of supplies or equipment that you might need to produce, like make whatever it is.
Right,
it's
right.
Also what you may need to execute what the thing is for the public. So right. Both of those costs are allowable.
Okay, so I could put, so like even if there's not a venue secured per se, I could list the expenses.
Yes, you could list acquiring the venue as an expense. Yes.
Okay, okay.
And your question about, researching and kind of developing the project, we assume that's where most people are at. That's kind of what paying yourself is having that time to put it together, to get your collaborators, especially with COVID right now, where we know things are constantly changing. We're not the kind of fund that, every time you say, I need to shift my money around a tiny bit, you need to write and ask for approval. Like having kind of that plan B is good to have as you're in your back pocket, but we're not here trying to be super regulators about it. So I think it makes having a solid idea, knowing that you'll be able to show us something that you feel you can complete and have a plan for, but knowing that, we're all human and things change a lot. So.
I don't know. Is it okay to ask another question? If I have ideas about what the community outreach might involve, could I include that in the budget as well, even if there's no venue secured for that purpose at this point?
You should put in your budget everything that's going to be necessary for you to execute your project.
Okay.
Then we had another question from Taylor. How many candidates are chosen, or is it just one? So we don't have a set number at this point because we're going to be giving differentiating funds depending on what people want. I believe the full amount, Krista, is 60,000. Is that correct?
Yeah.
60,000 grants up to 10,000. So the least amount we would give is 6, but we're hoping to give more than that. And then Amber asked, are there check-ins or some sort of mentorship that occurs throughout the process of awarded? And then there's a second question, but the first one, we do have a mid-grant check-in that is mandatory, kind of a small report and a check-in to see how the project is going. But if you want more conversations, we can definitely work that out. We're here to be a supportive a resource, not just financially. So the one is required, but I think that really depends on the person. And I believe that I'd be excited to talk to people as they're developing their projects.
Can I ask a question? I had to take a call. I'm just wondering if I missed the response to, is there an ideal amount of public events or showings to organize with grant money within the year?
The response was there's not a specific number of events that you have to do. You have to do however many you feel like you need to do for your project, right? And that could be one, a great, fabulous thing, or it could be quarterly as Girl Power had, it's up to you and your project.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Krista, do you want to answer? Is there a certain documentation needed by Grit Fund after the event?
I don't think we have like a formal final report on there. I think Robin and I both have a perspective of, trying to make this as painless a process as possible. There probably will be, we're also very much data people. And so there probably will be kind of questions during check-ins with us, just so we have an idea of what your outcomes and impacts are. But we really, we firmly believe that submitting some kind of crazy 20-page application or report afterwards is, it's a barrier to an artist's success. That's how we feel. So we'll ask for some things, but we're going to make it as painless as possible.
And then we had, for supporting media, are we allowed to use images and videos that don't belong to us but serve as inspiration? I would probably suggest not, Krista.
Right. I mean, you don't want to use somebody's, I mean, is it, if you're crediting the work, and so so that the panel, the jury panel reviewing the application or how that work is going to be applied to your work, it's clear that it's someone else's it's someone else's stuff, right? I mean, you don't want to get yourself into a position where you're using someone's work illegally or I mean just ethically wrong. I think if there are questions about that in your proposal specifically, then the panel would probably ask them. And then if you had questions, if you were awarded about how you could do that, we definitely have a great relationship with Maryland Volunteer Lawyers for the Arts, and they've done some work on, you know, copyrights and public domains and all of the things for sampling, et cetera. And so we could definitely put you in touch with those folks just to make sure that everybody's clear about what's allowable or not.
Yeah, really the point of the supporting media is for us to see what you and your collaborators have done, for us to have a vision of what you're wanting to do. So even if the supporting media that you have right now is really different from what you want to execute in the future, describing what you're wanting to do, you know, noting your inspiration is fine, but I would really encourage you to use your supporting media and what you put in front of the jury to show us and show the jury what you and your collaborators do and what you love to create, so they can know what's about you and not somebody else. And we are getting close to time, so I'm just going to take this last question. You also can always email us, have one-on-one conversations, or ask us over email. Krista, can you put our email in the chat? It's gritfund@thepealecenter.org. And Mandy asks, how detailed does a timeline need to be? We also have a sample timeline on our website, and it does not have to be super detailed. I'd say there's about 5 or 4-ish bulletins per month. I'm going to try and pull it up really quick, but I want to be mindful of folks' time. See if I can get it. Okay, here is our sample project timeline. I'm hoping you all can see that. So yeah, it's not super detailed. Like I said, 4 to 5 bullets per piece. And again, this is all available on our website. The link I posted in the chat. And if you have any trouble finding or navigating our website, please again email us. We are here to be a resource. Yeah, and with that, I want to thank you all so much. Amy and Pan, so appreciate you sharing your beautiful creativity, both today and with Baltimore and all that you do for our community. We look forward to getting your applications in, and feel free to be in touch.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank
I
you.
look forward to seeing all the projects. I love reading all the projects.
Thank you for your time tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very helpful.
Glad it was.